Europa League finals are coming upon us. So much to talk about. What I wanted to start with your career, what you were involved in. Obviously, no longer playing right now. You got yourself in a great position in the finance industry, living in Hoboken. That's fantastic. I just want to talk about your career as a collegiate soccer player, your experiences, and let's start where you made your decision to go to Stevens and play for the Ducks.
Sure. So basically, going into the college process, I knew I wanted to play soccer. I also knew I wanted to put the academics first, and I also knew I wanted to be in a location close to a major city and have some good job opportunities getting out of college. So Stevens kind of checked all those boxes. It was a good fit soccer wise, where I could play, but also a very, very competitive team within D3. So that was kind of my decision process, I guess, on coming to Stevens. And then ever since I made that decision, had no regrets, no looking back, and honestly couldn't have been happier with it.
You guys were very successful as a soccer team. I was kind of following along, throughout your career. I was seeing the stuff that you were sharing and everything. What would you say in your 4 years playing at the university was the top achievement for the team, or maybe even yourself?
I gotta say, for the team, uh, my junior season, we clinched home field advantage for our conference playoffs, and then in those conference playoffs, 0-0 in the final, 89 minutes in. There's 13 seconds on the clock, and we basically score the goal to give us the win, give us the conference title. And then that same season, we ended up pretty much doing the exact same thing in the national round of 32 to take us to the Sweet 16. So that year, honestly, and those two games and moments were kind of like highlights for the team. We actually ended up losing in the Sweet 16 to the national champion that year, but the ride was awesome that year. And then personally, I guess my achievement that I'm the most proud of, man, honestly, uh, I'd have to say, honestly, that same year, scoring a goal in the game that we eventually lost. I scored a goal to make it 3-2 and kind of give our team a little bit of life, and just like give the seniors on the team a little bit of a boost. But yeah, that was great. And then my senior year, I ended up getting first team all conference, which was a very, very big accomplishment for me as well. So I
Yeah,
was proud
man.
of both of those things.
That's awesome, and for the non-soccer fans out there, as a defender scoring a goal, it doesn't come too often. So that's an incredible accomplishment. But being all conference too is really something. And I've covered teams that have gone the length, if you will, and I've covered teams that have gone to the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament, and that feeling when you're able to, you're much more a part of it than I was in any way. You're actually on the team, but being there for something like that is honestly incredible. You learn so much from it, don't you?
Yeah, honestly, you couldn't have said it better. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about the people on the team with you, and you just come out of it feeling A, older, and B, closer to everyone who was there with you.
Yeah, the memories, the connections that you make in those situations are really unmatched. What were some of the challenging things about playing collegiate soccer at the Division 3 level, just in general for you? What were some things that stood out that made it a little bit more difficult?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing is just the culture shock. You get to college and there's a trillion new things you have to learn. You're taking new classes. You probably know very little people. And also there's a ton of distractions that college has. So honestly, just the transition that first semester, and to make it worse, you're playing soccer as well, or to make it better, but to make it a harder transition. So all of those things are kind of just hitting you at the same time, and it's just like sensory overload at all times, at all hours. You're in the library till 2, and then you'll
Mm-hmm.
be up at 7 for morning lift. And I mean, everyone kind of says that, so I would agree with that and say that's one of the harder things. And then throughout the 4 years, similar stuff, especially when it comes time that you're looking for jobs. So now you're managing classes, job applications, interviews, playing a sport in which there's travel. Like when you're going overnight for a trip, you'd be leaving on a Thursday sometimes and not getting back till a Sunday evening, maybe even a Monday morning kind of deal. So it was just a lot of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I mean overall, like those are the hardest parts. And then if you learn time management, you're golden. Then it's all smooth sailing.
Yeah, I always thought of that, like those long trips where you're gone for 4 or 5 days. Classmates, people that I've worked with at URI who played at the Division One level, they'd be gone for 5 straight days, miss a couple of classes. I just couldn't imagine how to keep up with your work and managing and still performing at a high level. And you guys have to go out there on the field and kind of throw away the whole thought like, oh, I have a huge exam to worry about studying for. I have to go win this game right now. That to me is a huge leap that you have to make.
Yeah, for sure. But there's a flip side of it, honestly. The soccer is such a release, and you're able to just forget about everything else that it almost like de-stresses you, and then you'll come back and be able to focus on your schoolwork. So it honestly, it has a flip side to it. It's hard, but then it has advantages too.
Right.
In that regard.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
That's great. Just want to check in with some of the comments here. We want to say thank you again, Handmade Mango, for the follow. They say, can't wait to hear what Jim has to say. Nayom Good says, Jimmy with 4 Ys. And McNasty6112 says, Jimmer with about 12 M's, 2 E's, and 6 R's. All excited to have you on the show today. Let's shift our focus. Obviously, no longer with the Stevens Ducks, a proud graduate there, again, working in Hoboken, a really great place to work, up-and-coming city. Now, the focus is your career, obviously, and watching a ton of basketball and soccer, right? That's the number one thing that takes you through the evening. I wanted to talk about just the United States movement in soccer. We're starting to see these bigger names pop up and playing across larger, if you will, Power 5 leagues in Europe. The biggest name right now is Christian Pulisic with Chelsea, and he's playing in the Premier League. And you have guys like Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, who might be moving to the Premier League as well. Where do you see all of these different United States players coming together, and how good do you think that this national team can be when they start competing for the 2022 World Cup?
I mean, they have the players, man. You look and you see Tyler Adams scoring in a Champions League, what was it, quarterfinal to send Red Bull Leipzig to the semis. You have that, like you said, you have Pulisic, you have Weston, you have Gio Reyna, who's in the pipeline still. You have a lot of young talent, man. There's a lad on Barcelona as well. The talent is there. They just need the consistent coaching. They need to get a lot of reps playing together. The coaching is so important, though. And then coupled with those international guys, the guys playing abroad, you need a strong base of either MLS people or just other guys from America. It can't be 5 or 6 guys. You need some defenders on that list. You need to see a goalie on that list. So they have good seeds right now, but let's see if it pans out. I think we're going to be in a good place. But right now, like you just look at some of the other nations, the depth of it, you look at the depth of countries like France, you look at the depth of countries like Germany, England. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we're there yet, but like you said, we have the players and the potential to be there, maybe in 4 years, maybe in less, who knows? But yeah, I think we're in a great place going forward. It's just how can we utilize those players best?
Right. The foundation definitely there, and I think the point about defenders, you see a lot of these young rising stars, they're midfielders and attacking players. We haven't heard a ton about the back end of what the U.S. men's national team might look like, but the definite signs that there's growth there, and they did just announce today that the U.S. men's national team is going to begin, and the rest of the countries will begin their World Cup qualifiers in 2021. They announced those dates earlier today. So something to look forward to, finally, from the men's national team, because for years it's just been lackadaisical. It's been unmotivated. The coaching turnover has definitely not helped. It's been a frustrating couple of years for this team, and it's going to be a good change to see them start to build for the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And honestly, there's been a huge overhaul in youth soccer in America
Mm.
too. The academy system is kind of switching a little bit, and the MLS academies are kind of stepping up a little bit more. So, I mean, if that timeline says anything, maybe in 4 years, some of these players who are 15, 16, maybe in 4 years, this change will be positive, and you'll see them as the next Reina or the next Pulisic. Um, so yeah, that overhaul's been good as well. And yeah, it's been boring not being able to watch them, man.
Yeah.
Having to watch the whole last World Cup and not see America was brutal.
That it's so frustrating, and the way they went out, and I can have an entire show on how you can't afford to suffer that true defeat it was against Trinidad and Tobago. I mean,
Yep.
and they actually might play against each other. Report initially says that they're probably going to be matched up in the qualifying round. So revenge time for the U.S. men's national team.
Seriously.
Jim, let's focus now. We'll head to where you're currently broadcasting from, England, right? You're there and broadcasting away.
Yeah, I wish.
Premier League, an unbelievable season. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, they still were able to produce quality games, quality competition, even with that 100-day break that they had. The champions this year were Liverpool, and they were by a long shot. They did a really, really nice job this year. I wanted to see your opinion, and I can give you a couple seconds to really think about it. Where does Liverpool rank among the best teams all time? Do you consider them to be one of the best Premier League teams of all time?
I mean, listen, before quarantine, before COVID, they were on that pace. They were going to be one of the best teams of all time. They came back and they just weren't the same team. Had the season started after the break, they would not have won the season. So, I mean, the start, yes, they were one of the best ever, if not the best. The second half of the season let them down, though. So I'm going to say they're in the top 10, but not the top five. I got to go with Arsenal, the Invincibles, 2003 undefeated season as the best team ever.
Yeah.
So, but and then there's some Man United teams in there as well. Last year's Manchester City team was up there. 2 years ago, Manchester City team. This Liverpool squad, I would say, is in the top 10. No, really quality players and like a lot of fun to watch. My favorite team to watch this year.
Yeah, they were really, really, their performance was great, and it looked like I had trouble with really picking out who was the most influential player for their side because on so many different levels, they're deep, right? Trent Alexander-Arnold had one of the best coming out years of any player we've seen in quite some time. He was amazing at right back.
Class.
He was great. Sadio Mane had another really strong year, and the attention last year was with Mo Salah because of how many goals he produced. But this year, it wasn't focused really on him. It was a true team effort. Do you think that they can maintain what they did this year into next season?
I think so. I think they have to. They're retaining pretty much everyone. Everyone's fit right now. Trent should have another big year. Robbo on the left back. Big Virgil van Dijk is staying. Mm-hmm. The goalie, Allison, is staying. The top three, you got Mane, Bobby, and Mo. Like, they're all staying. Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Keita. So much depth, and that's really what you're seeing. So I think, yeah, you said it perfectly. Team effort, and I see no reason they won't compete for the title again next year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we're going to see them fight to the top. I think it's going to be a little bit tighter than it was this year, but Liverpool's definitely going to be probably the favorite once the season begins again very soon, too. They have a quick turnaround. Handmade Mango says, Liverpool, terrible once they got back from the COVID break. Yeah, I could say maybe terrible, a little harsh, but they definitely weren't the same team that they were, and we're seeing that throughout other sports. Let's talk about Arsenal, because they had a rocky season. There wasn't a lot of consistency, except until the end. And you started to see, obviously, when you anchor a front man like Aubameyang, who had an unbelievable year in the front, what do you think that they need to do to start to make some noise and push themselves back up? I know they've made some noise already in the transfer window. They're starting to bring in some higher targets. That is going to be an important thing moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You said it good. Bringing in targets, and then also just time under the new manager, under Arteta. You start to see towards the end of the season, they have a win over Liverpool, a win over Manchester City, a win over Chelsea, pretty much all within the span of a few weeks. And that's coming from time and experience playing with each other and playing under the new manager. Bringing in Willian is huge. I think, unfortunately, they're going to lose a few players. Maybe Torreira, Guendouzi. Also, Lacazette might be leaving soon, but you got to bring in guys to replace them and then just start playing the Arteta way, whatever that is. Whatever he learned under Pep, institute that at Arsenal. And I think we'll be fine. I mean, my bold take for the Premier League season, I got a few, but one of them is that Arsenal is going to be top 4. So,
okay. That was actually my next question. Do they have enough to get into the top 4? Who are your top 4 teams?
Let's see. So at 4, I've got Arsenal. 3, I'm going to put Chelsea. And then 2 and 1, I've got Liverpool and Man U.
Oh, yes.
I have a feeling that after this Champions League, I have a feeling De Bruyne or Pep is going to leave City, and that won't be good for the club. I like Liverpool and Man U to get 1 and 2, respectively.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. First. That's great. I still think United is 1 piece away, and I don't know.
I'd agree.
If that answer comes through Jadon Sancho or not, but I still think that they're missing 1 piece because they just don't have. They added Bruno Fernandes, which was great for their game, but there's just something missing about this team. I thought Tony was great in the middle. Martial was awesome. You're seeing the rise of Greenwood, and you mentioned it earlier before we got on the air. Was you love Greenwood. I love him too. He's 18 years old and he's producing at the rate he did this year. That's hugely positive. And their midfield's deep. You have Pogba, you have Fernandes. If Nemanja Matic can continue to play and hold the midfield, I don't know how he's doing it. He's so slow. But I just think that they're 1 piece away.
I'd agree. I think they bring in a center defender, and they're going to be in a good spot. I think Sancho will help with the depth, but their problem's not goals right now. It's Harry Maguire, honestly, and Lindelof just aren't they're not up to par with the other Premier League center backs. They're not Virgil van Dijk. They're not Laporte. They're not Company a few years ago. Bring in a top quality center back, and then work from there.
Yeah, I think you're right there. They each have their moments where they're really good, and then some. It's a switch, turns on and off all the time. AJ Masur, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate that. He comments at Handmade Mango. Who cares when they already smashed City and everyone else pre-COVID? It's a fair point, right? You do enough work that you can just kind of coast along the rest of the way. Yeah, they're the title winners no matter what, no matter how you say it. So good for them.
Yeah. Cheers to you, AJ.
D Jordan 6771. Thanks for the follow as well, my friend. We're 1 follow away from the Big 15. Jim, thanks so much for being on today. I know we wanted to keep it to 20 minutes for you, man. We're up to that point. Thanks so much for coming on. Can people find you anywhere in the Twitter sphere to get your soccer takes and your NBA takes? Oh, before we go, we got to get your final prediction. Who's winning the NBA Finals this year?
Oh, listen, you asked me a month ago, I would have said the Clippers. You asked me right now, I'm still saying the Clippers.
Wow. Hot take.
Yeah.
I like it, though. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as following, I think you tweeted out my Twitter. If people have questions, they can find me there. And then my Instagram's Duran_Jimmy. Have at it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jack. Big fan. Keep it going.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.